Hello, welcome to Modal Mixture II. So again, a reminder, modal mixture is when you incorporate tones from the parallel mode. If you're in major, you incorporate from parallel minor. If you're in minor, you could incorporate from the parallel major. So in this case, we're still looking at the more common use of the parallel minor within the context of major. So I want to introduce to you a new progression, one that's not characteristic of the classical composers. In fact, I've discouraged you from ever writing it. That is, 5 moving to a 4. But romantics, starting with Mendelssohn, sometimes Chopin, but and then quite a bit in Wagner and even in Brahms, um, they will move from 5 to 4 and then have a plagal closure. Let's listen. Hear that kind of plagal cadence. But what's the problem with the plagal cadence? It is not very decisive. There's most important, there's no true leading tone. You have fa to mi, but you don't really have um, intense motion. So here's where composers like Mendelssohn or Wagner will use the modal mixture to intensify the motion. They'll go la, which is resolving to sol. They'll go la, lay to sol. So you hear that. But that soprano line that I have here is do to do. You're anticipating do. They're already there, so that's not very strong closure either. Wagner, in particular, loved to move up by step at the end. So instead of having the descent to a stable tonic, re to do, like we've had in all PACs, he will start on stable do and move up by step and have a sense of uplift at the end of his works. He started doing this in the end of his opera Tristan and Isolde. He loved this progression so much that he went back and revised his earlier operas so that it would end with this progression. So let's listen to the soprano and alto. So you're ending on mi, you're not ending on the root. So this is a variation of the plagal cadence. And often he would move, so you don't want to double the third at the end, he would move to a do and the soprano, and so you'll in the tenor like this, and you'll get essentially a 2-6-5. With the flat 3. This is all sense of passing motion, so this is just intensification of the 4, really. Let's listen to the whole progression. So what's absolutely key here is the stepwise motion in the soprano, the do, re, mi, and the la, lay to sol in the alto voice, whichever voice you have la going to sol. So you get now you get the sense of stepwise motion at the cadence, going up instead of down, and you get a sense of kind of a leading tone, but it's lay to sol instead of ti to do. Listen for that when you go to your next Wagner opera. Now, this other progression I'm showing you is not exactly modal mixture, but it's definitely borrowing a progression from a different key, but not the applied chords that we've been studying in earlier this semester. So let's listen to this kind of generic half cadence structure. I'm just giving it in 2 bars, and then a PAC structure. This is a paradigm for classical phrase structure. So composers, you even see this in classical music and even Baroque music, as well as early Romantic, will, instead of moving to a 5 at the half cadence, they'll they'll borrow the sort of that Phrygian cadence that we've seen in minor with the half step motion in the bass. So they'll go do, fa, mi, and instead of going to a 5 chord, they'll go to a 3 chord with a major third, as if it were, say, a 5 of 6. So this would literally be, in fact, you can even think of this progression. I'm going to fix some parallels here in a minute. Um, you can think of the progression like this. One, I'll start on this chord. Think of this going. A 6 in the A minor going to a 5. Half cadence in A minor. Now you can't go now, as you may have noticed. There's parallels. There's parallel fifths here. So if the bass, so that's why it's useful to think of this in terms of the Phrygian cadence, because you don't go 6 to 5. What you do is you go through a 4/6 chord. So if I think of this as like 4/6 in the key of A minor. And introduce basically a 5/6 motion we're all familiar with, and do a little and I think that takes care of the voice leading, and now all you have to do is raise the leading tone as if you were in the key of A minor. And you can also, so now, but the thing is, we're not in the key of A minor, because we're not going to cadence in A minor. We're going to go right back to 1 in the key of C major. So this really is a 3 with the raised third. Go all the way up to mi. One reason I like to show you this progression, just after we saw the do, re, mi in the previous one, I said it's the same voice leading, do, re, mi, and it's 5/6 motion over an F, but the bass moves down a half step. The soprano, of course, moves up a step. So you get that contrary motion. It's very much like the Phrygian cadence. Let's listen to this. That functions like a half cadence. So this is a very different progression taken as a whole. It's like it's taking little components from progressions we're familiar with, but mixing them together in a way we haven't. And this using the 3 as a kind of a substitute goal for the half cadence that for the traditional 5 is a real twist. And also an interesting connection with modal mixture is that you have to do the chromatic alterations back. So you've got the chromatic alteration to the G sharp as if it were a leading tone, but it's not a leading tone. It just goes straight back to the fifth, the sol, the fifth of the tonic chord. So don't be shocked if you see this kind of progression. Just a major 3 chord used as a substitute for a 5, and its function is basically half cadence. By the way, sometimes composers will go to this chord and they will move on, of course, to the key of 6, or the in this case the key of A minor. So yes, it can also function as a modulation or a applied chord. But Sometimes it just sits all by itself. Okay, so that's so further use of modal mixture and a couple of unusual progressions that are characteristic of chromatic